Well, good afternoon and welcome to Waterloo Region Police Service Board public input session. Can I get a motion from board to go into public input session? Moved by Jim, seconded by Doug Craig. So welcome to the second of two public input sessions being hosted by the Waterloo Region Police Service Board. This is an opportunity for community members of the Waterloo Region to provide their input around the 2025 WRPS budget. Waterloo Region Police Service is committed to building a better, safer, and more equitable Waterloo Region for all our citizens. We understand that this vision can only be achieved through meaningful and respectful collaboration with our local partners. As such, we have initiated these two input sessions for the first time and look forward to hearing from those that have reached out. Delegates will be introduced and we'll have 5 minutes to present to the board, followed by an opportunity for questions from board members. So starting with delegations, first up, Rob Deutman. You have 5 minutes, sir.
Can I share my screen? Is it sharing?
I think so. Yeah.
You can see that? Okay, thank you. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to address the board regarding the proposed 2025 police budget. The Region of Waterloo is facing a projected 12% budget increase. Regional Council is working to reduce this by at least 4%, equating to about $20 million in savings. Given these constraints, I have several concerns about the proposed police budget increase. Over the past 3 years, the Waterloo Regional Police Service has not achieved its full authorized complement of new recruits. Chief Crowell assured full staffing in 2023, which did not happen. And it seems unlikely that WRPS will meet its full complement in 2024, and therefore can continue to hire new recruits in 2025 to fill the existing capacity. The recent shift from quarterly to annual personnel reporting raises concerns. The board has declined requests for more updates of various personnel metrics, stating data won't be available until 2025, limiting our ability to make informed decisions. In November 2022, Chief Crowell recommended adding 9 to 11 officers annually to match population growth. This measured approach would have helped avoid hiring strains during peak retirement periods. However, the WRPS board insisted on a more aggressive hiring plan, contrary to both the chief's recommendation and the KPMG report. The January 2023 KPMG report recommended, among other items, increasing the use of special constables for lower risk activities. The report highlighted Brantford Police Services as a successful model for expanding special constable roles. It also recommended consistent annual hiring, which aligned with Chief Crowell's original recommendation. The WRPS board has never used the average of the 12 largest forces as a basis for personnel increases. Comparisons with cities like Toronto, Windsor, and Niagara Falls are misleading due to their unique factors, such as the TTC subway system, staffing practices, and funding from local casinos. The region has approved 37 new officers over the past 2 years. Based on Chief Crowell's original recommendation, we are ahead of schedule and could defer adding 18 additional officers to the current authorized complement, saving over $4 million in 2025. WRPS currently hires 0.5 civilians for every officer hired, a formula that does not consider actual needs. Civilian hiring should be based on identified organizational requirements. The KPMG report noted annual surpluses in the 3 years prior of $3.3 million annually, contributed to by delays in hiring new recruits. Requesting funding for unfulfilled positions creates taxpayer-funded surpluses that could be better utilized. Expanding our crisis call diversion program can connect individuals in mental health crises with appropriate professionals, reducing unnecessary police involvement and workload on frontline officers. Increasing police budgets strains funding for vital social programs that address root causes of crime. Investing in housing, mental health services, and youth programs can significantly improve community safety. It's crucial to recognize that funding for public safety and investing in upstream services should not be framed as being at odds with each other. However, within the constraints of limited regional resources, every dollar spent on increasing police budgets is a dollar not available to the region of Waterloo for these critical social programs. We need to strike a balance.
1 minute, sir.
We need to strike a balance that ensures both immediate public safety and long-term crime prevention through social support. Recommendations: defer adding 18 additional officers to the authorized complement, saving approximately $4 million. Reinstate quarterly personnel reporting for transparency. Explore expanded use of special constables. Review civilian hiring practices based on actual needs. Expand crisis call diversion program. Reconsider using averages from dissimilar municipalities. In conclusion, adding officers to the authorized complement that cannot be hired in a timely manner does not enhance community safety. As we consider the future of policing in our region, we must strike a delicate balance between ensuring public safety through effective policing and addressing the root causes of crime through robust social services. We must balance policing needs with fiscal responsibility. By adopting this balanced approach, we can work towards creating a safer, more equitable community for all residents of Waterloo region. This strategy recognizes the important role of policing while also—
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
You're not going to let me finish my last sentence?
Everyone gets 5 minutes.
You're not even going to let me finish my last sentence, Chair McLean?
Everyone gets 5 minutes.
Is that your approach today?
Everyone gets 5 minutes.
All right, thank you for that consideration. Much appreciated.
Is there any questions from the board? Don't see any. Thank you very much. Moving on, Darren Renee, KW Rehabilitation.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just trying to share my screen. Give me 1 second. There we go.
Welcome, and you have 5 minutes, sir.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for the time today. Perfect. My name is Darren Renee. I'm a director with KW Rehabilitation. KW Rehabilitation is a local not-for-profit organization, and I have the pleasure here to speak on behalf of the perspective of people with intellectual disabilities to highlight a couple of pressure points that I think would be wise to take into consideration for strategic planning purposes. Just to give you a 10-second overview of who we are, we're a large developmental services organization here in Waterloo Region with about 600 employees. We provide community employment and participation supports to people with intellectual disabilities. We have multiple group living homes across the city, 25 approximately in Kitchener-Waterloo. We support people in 12 different apartment buildings across the city as well, supporting about 120 people. I will skip through to there and just really getting to the themes that I wanted to highlight just for consideration of strategic planning. The first theme that I'm going to highlight that I think the police services are well aware of, when it comes to persons with intellectual disabilities, the supports and services, including agencies that I work for, do not match the need that exists in community. We're at a point now where there are more people waiting for services than there are services available. And what that does is it creates a pressure point where people aren't getting the supports they need, oftentimes with behavioral and medical complexities, and they start to fall through the gaps. In 2016, we saw a provincial ombudsman investigation into this particular problem that resulted in the 2016 report, Nowhere to Return. And what that did was, through a 100-page report, really paint a picture of families out there in the community that are struggling with sons and daughters with intellectual disabilities. And when they can't, this visualization on the report I recognize is grainy, but really tells a telling story that when families can't access the supports and services that they need, they find themselves either overrepresented in the justice system, abandoning children and siblings in hospitals, or inappropriately placed in long-term care. This problem has not decreased, and we see currently that the Ombudsman investigation is doing an investigation now in the province of Ontario on persons that are ALC or block beds in the hospital system, and we anxiously await for the results of that particular report. However, having said that, it is important to highlight a few things with this, is that it's not all doom and gloom. Our minister has invested hundreds of $millions into the system to help assist this problem. And agencies like my own have created complex care supports where we're supporting persons with highly complex behavioral needs, with highly trained staff, specialized environments, and clinical supports. We've experienced tremendous success to date and are currently expanding with additional beds in 2025. Collaboration with police services will be key to maintaining the success that we've experienced, including any opportunities for cross-training, ensuring vulnerable sector checks are accurate, and engagement with community officers. The second issue that I would just like to highlight for strategic planning purposes is a pending pressure point that I'm not quite sure the system or the community is aware of. Historically, persons with intellectual disabilities have been institutionalized. So it's only until 2009 when the final provincial institutions were closed and we're truly supporting people in community. An organization like KW Rehabilitation grew as the institutions were closing. And why this is important is that we're really, even within the people that we support, we're seeing the people we support aging. Well, people always age, but we're only seeing the true experience of it right now because historically people were institutionalized. And why that's important is that persons specifically with intellectual disabilities, and more specifically with Down syndrome, have a much greater rate of dementia. And we're starting to see the
1 minute,
Yep.
sir.
Perfect. Thank you very much. We're starting to see those implications in regards to the people we support, a lot more behavioral crisis, eloping, and those kind of behaviors that are going to result on a reliance on crisis services. So we are seeing more and more of that, and we're anticipating that we're just at the edge of that tsunami to some extent, that we're just going to see that problem intensify. So again, highlighting this information on important pressures with crisis services is important. We hope that we can deal with this in a proactive manner. And any questions?
Thank you very much for your presentation. Any questions with the delegation from the board? Chair Redmond.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this presentation. It's really interesting. I guess I'm just wondering, is there an ask in all of this, or is this just to make us aware of some of the issues that people are confronted who use the services of KW Rehabilitations?
Thank you. It is maybe to foster an awareness. I think in the past, engagement that we've had with community officers has always been successful. I think at times we've had requests from community officers to meet, and we know that's coming from the frequency of calls that they might be getting from specific environments. But when we really engage in dialogue, it certainly addresses any concerns from the police's end on the steps and the processes that we have in place. And it just really highlights the complexity of the people we're supporting. So any discussion or discourse that we can get with community officers, with police services, I think is helpful.
And if I could, Chair McLean, just one other question. Darren, are you speaking on behalf of the organization or somebody that has enhanced awareness, but not necessarily on behalf of KW Rehabilitation?
No, I would be speaking on behalf of KW Rehabilitation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the board? No, thank you, sir. Appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you.
Next delegation, Jason Spencer, Community Justice Initiatives. There you are, Jason.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm just getting my screen set up here.
Okay, I think it's up and running.
All right.
Thank you for joining it.
Yep.
You have five minutes, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Jason Spencer. I'm coming representing Community Justice Initiatives. I'm a program director there in our mediation services. For those who don't know, Community Justice Initiatives is a volunteer-based peace building and restorative justice organization. Over our 45 plus year history in Waterloo region, we have creatively and innovatively applied restorative justice principles to address conflict and harm related needs identified by our community. And our founding was a result of a grassroots movement that sought to build community to transform harm through dialogue where all voices are heard. We continue this mission today to inspire safe, healthy, and peaceful communities. Restorative justice is based on the understanding that crime and conflict causes harm to people and relationships, and it affects communities. Restorative justice is an approach to justice that seeks to repair harm by providing an opportunity for those harmed and those who take responsibility for the harm to communicate about cases, circumstances, and impacts of crime and conflict to address their needs. Restorative justice seeks to foster healing, reparation, and reintegration while also seeking to prevent future harm. One of our services in the community is offering restorative dialogue options and individual and group conflict coaching to people experiencing harm and conflict. Beyond conflict mediation or conflict skill building, CGI also assists communities, associations, neighborhoods experiencing tension, including at risk for cultural conflict or community interested in dialogue regarding building a hate-free neighborhood. Currently, our work with Waterloo Regional Police Services, we receive referrals to our community mediation services, primarily through the Community Engagement Unit for situations involving neighbor conflict, housing-related conflict, and family conflict. Our ask is to actually work more collaboratively with police services who are responding to an increased number of calls related to these conflict types. We look to have a more formalized referral process to our community mediation services, and we would be interested in a shared memorandum of understanding that would speak to the following items. One, that CGI's community mediation services be adequately funded to bolster staff capacity for increased and consistent referrals that are offered a variety of restorative approaches, that we have referrals as soon as possible to the response pipeline in an effort to mitigate against conflict escalation and entrenchment, and that we have a process that's embedded in police protocol, and that it be a consent-driven process, and that CGI and Waterloo Regional Police Services, which have a shared understanding of what consent means. Currently, as our programming stands, we don't receive any direct funding from police services, and yet a majority of our referrals to our community mediation services do come from police and non-criminal related offenses. Why support our work? People across the region are experiencing conflict and harm within situations that do not meet the threshold of criminal offense. Every community needs options for alternatives to police response that provide opportunity for and support with transforming and or resolving challenges and differences without police involvement. With a deep recognition of varying experiences and perceptions around law enforcement, the option of a restorative alternative can offer community members to look outside of the justice system for healing with a sense of safety, agency, and support. And a funding option that supports community-led responses to crime and conflict would allow for transparent and cost-effective processes to be leveraged by our community, and to allow for our services, for police services, to direct their attention to community matters that require their skill and experience. Why support? One minute left. Yeah, so there's some research here from the Government of Canada that identifies that increasing the use of RJ could transform our criminal justice system. The criminal justice system is backlogged and is not responsive or effective in meeting the needs of certain situations. Studies have shown that RJ reduces involvement in the criminal justice system in the future, and it provides victims and survivors with a voice in a justice process that sometimes leaves them disenfranchised. And it also increases opportunities to address systemic barriers to the criminal justice system. And in my last point, in a post-pandemic COVID situation, there's a real backlog of services to people within the criminal justice system. And this would allow people to have more responsive and effective processes that engage them as individuals to resolve their own conflicts and address their harms in ways that meet their needs that the system, unfortunately, is unable to do. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Are there any questions for the delegation from the board? I think it was Tony first. Tony, go ahead.
Through you, Chair McLean. Jason, first of all, thanks for the presentation and the clearly articulated ask. I think that was quite beneficial for me. My question is, You indicated currently there is a relationship of referrals to your initiative. You've indicated in your first ask a bolstering of current staff capacity for the increased demand and referrals that are coming. Do you have a rough percentage of what type of demand increases you're estimating for your organization in the coming year or years ahead? Like, do you have some sort of charting on that?
I don't. It's sort of like a chicken and egg scenario. So we don't actively promote this service because it is in demand. We are a volunteer-led organization, so much of our work is done by volunteers, so we mitigate costs that way. I think more importantly is if there were more cases coming from WRPS, we would need greater capacity in order to meet that. And I think we would want to work collaboratively with police services around how to do that in an effective manner.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, better. I understand. Thanks.
That's everything, Tony. Okay, Chair Redmond.
Thank you, Chair McLean. And Jason, thanks so much for coming in. So clearly you already have a relationship with WRPS. And it sounds like conversations are going on. And I guess from your perspective, they must be encouraging, or you wouldn't be here to sort of raise our awareness. I'm really interested in the court diversion program. So this is bigger than WRPS necessarily. It's just looking at the whole judicial system. And I know that there's been a lot of work done with Crowns. I'm wondering if you can just speak to that a little bit. This isn't a budget issue. I think it's a bigger issue.
Indeed. Yeah. Thanks, Chair Redmond. Appreciate the question. So in terms of our services, so our initial program that we offered was initially called Victim Offender Reconciliation Program. That program area is now called Restorative Responses to Harm and Crime. And so that receives referrals from the Crown Attorney's Office. However, though we do both adult and youth cases, we only receive funding for youth cases. So this is a real challenge for us organizationally as we try to meet the need, because we do see from a systemic perspective the place of where when people become criminalized, become labeled because of their behaviors in the community, that not only affects them as individuals, but it affects the community about people being able to reintegrate. Part of what our services does is it allows for for people to come together and talk about the crime or offense that has been committed, and for them to work together about determining what are reparations or restitutions that are needed. And in that, someone can then not be charged if it's deemed appropriate. And, I would say the appropriateness of referrals is also something that could be up for further conversation, because for the most part, it's, first time offenders or what would be deemed as sort of low risk criminal activity, whereas we can see an opportunity for even more significant criminal activity to be diverted in our direction, as long as both parties are able and willing to participate, because the voluntariness of our programming is important, and there needs to be accountability by those individuals who have committed harms or offenses to take accountability for their actions for them to participate in our programming. Did that answer your question?
It doesn't, Chair McLean. If I can just a sort of supplemental question. I know that the court diversion program, you were keeping statistics of equity deserving people, and that those groups often didn't get as quick a response to court diversion. I wonder if you could just speak to that, if you're keeping that data.
I'm not sure. Sorry, I've just stepped into this role, so I'm not as familiar with the details of that, but I do know that most recently we worked with some racialized individuals, and that was a really meaningful and impactful outcome, because the system itself was not responsive to the cultural needs of those individuals. And by creating a space where they could actually speak together and have a different conversation, it led to a really positive outcome where the harm was addressed and apologies were given to people. And so in that, what that means is that we can be more timely and responsive than the criminal justice system, because we are a grassroots organization, and as the need becomes apparent, we can apply our resources effectively to meet the need.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you for your time today, sir.
Yeah, thanks so much. Take care.
Moving on, and I don't see him, Daniel Tang from the Canadian AWOL Youth Association. He was saying that he had some internet issues, Megan?
Mayor McLean, yes, he has reached out. He has had some issues with Zoom today. So he has shared his presentation, which has been posted and shared with the board ahead of time. If the board has any questions for him, I said that I would forward to him by email.
Okay, thank you. So for your attention, the presentation is posted. Okay, so moving on is Harold Drewitz. I think I saw Harold. There he is. Welcome, and are you doing a presentation, Harold?
No, I don't have a presentation as you know, Mr. Chair, and also the chief. And I've made presentations for the most of the last 10 years, and my subject is the same. And
Well, welcome, and you've got 5 minutes. Go ahead.
thank you. So last year at this time, the budget to ask was a 7.6% increase. And the inflation was for 2023 seemed to be about 4%. Now in 2025, the ask is about 11% increase, 10.7, and it appears as though the rate of inflation for 2024 is going to be around 2%. So you know, that's 4 times or double the amount, and I can't stop stressing the importance of inflation or the consumer price index. A lot of wages are taken into consideration by companies when the CPI comes out, and for example, old age security is just one item. Same thing with CPP. Where the government increases it as a percent of CPI. So I'm talking, as I've had in the past, about the taxpayers' ability to pay, and I don't see any progress towards that mark. I know and I keep myself informed as to what's going on with policing in the community and so on. I have some understanding of some of the complexities, and I totally get that. But I am concerned with the people in my group as they are with the taxpayers' ability to pay, and it didn't hit us in 2024, but at some point in time, it's going to hit us and hit us bad. I'd also like to make a remark similar to what Councillor Deutman said regarding the 18 new officers. I know that this has been an ask for several years in the past and so on. And I've also seen that a lot of times the ask does not meet what's in the budget because there's unforeseen retirees and so on. And the ask, for example, the chances are at least half, if not more, of the 18 that you put in the budget as additional, many of those will be just replacing retirees and so on. So I concur with Councillor Deutman that this is a increased costs that are used, and this is how you build a surplus from one year to the next, and that should be taken into consideration. I don't know what the policies are regarding your reserves funds, but I suggest that the police board does have adequate reserve funds. The other thing, from looking at it from a different point of view, this budget is mostly wages and benefits. 90% of the budget is wages and benefits. Let's say 4% increase. I guess I just failed to see why the budget increase can't come down to the 6% level. So those are my comments. That's my suggestion. And like I say, I don't go into, as you know, Chief Crowell, I don't go into the details of the budget, but maybe when I have more time, maybe some point in time I might.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Any questions of the delegation? No, thank you. Appreciate your time today. I think next up, Melissa Bowman. I saw Melissa. There she is. Okay.
All set?
Yep. And welcome. Are you doing a present or sharing a screen? No.
Just comments.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us, and you have 5 minutes.
Thanks. Budget season is a time to consider how to best keep our community safe. However, too often when questions are asked about the police budget or the potential for alternative models, it is assumed to be an attack on our local police force. Last year, Councillor Craig said that he wasn't happy about comments about defunding the police as that's an attack on the morale of the police. It's unfortunate that what could be an opportunity for real discussion about community safety is blocked by such criticism. We saw similar criticism last year when one regional councillor referred to another difficult budget year with the region needing money for homelessness, drug addiction, and mental health services. The councillor suggested diverting a percentage of the police budget surplus to address some of those issues. However, Chief Crowell said taking police reserve money is a move to defund the police. These funds were not from the core budget, but rather from the police surplus, which has averaged over $3 million per year in recent years. We need a new model of community safety, given there is no consistent correlation between police spending and crime rates in Canada. Contrary to what we hear at every police budget presentation, a paper recently published in Canadian Public Policy found no clear relationship between higher police budgets and crime, and no association between increasing spending and reducing crime rates. A co-author of the report stated, simply giving the police more money is not going to solve the issues we see. The findings of the report reinforce the need to further explore the role and function of police in our society. Still, police board members strive to make the case that ever-increasing police budgets result in safer communities. Last year, board member Ian McLean said, "There's no doubt that we need the increase in our uniformed complement because of calls for service, growing community, complexity of crime, and crime severity." McLean completely overlooked the value of investing in prevention and root causes of crime. While much of the police budget is committed to salaries and benefits, there are items that rightly have been called into question, such as continuing to pay for officers that have yet to be hired, resulting in police budget surpluses. I agree with Councillor Deutman's recommendation that Waterloo Regional Police should not budget for more officers until they hire the officers already budgeted for. Last year, Regional Chair Redmond said, "We ask the hard questions and we are accountable." Yet time and again, few questions are asked of the police chief following presentations to the board. At a meeting last year, staff shared a graph showing that persons in crisis are the second highest category for use of force incidents. The board didn't ask a single question as to why. In 2021, Regional Council passed a motion to invest in community-led police-free approaches. When the police-free language was later removed without explanation, there was no follow-up from the board. Addressing the root causes of crime is an important starting point for many of the community-led police-free models that exist elsewhere. According to Public Safety Canada, proactive factors are positive influences that can improve the safety of a community, strengthening individuals and communities, mitigating risk factors. Protective factors include strong social supports, early childhood development, steady employment, and stable housing. Some of the very areas that Regional Council is considering deferring funding, almost defunding perhaps, in this budget cycle. Community advocate Anne-Marie Beal said to Regional Council last year, "You want less crime in the region? Then instead of increasing an already bloated police budget, invest the money in housing, healthcare, education, and land back, providing opportunities for the rights of all community members." An open letter from the ACB network reiterates that approach, arguing instead of investing in surveillance and punishment, we should invest in community-led care and safety. But do we need to pick one approach or the other? Last year, Chair Redmond said, "It's not either or. It's not fund the police or invest in upstream services. It's both and." Then, now is the time to act and put these words into action by investing deeply into prevention and care supports. In fact, One advocate of this approach is none other than Chief Crowell, who stated, "We're all looking toward a day when we can move away from reactive and responsive modes, when we have a wide range of community solutions that are potentially police-free." Although I question if upstream services are truly a priority for this board, as the chief also stated, any motion that seeks to reallocate or defund the service's use of surplus funds without a sound analysis of service level impacts will have a destabilizing effect. Councillor Craig also said he's not prepared to compromise the police budget for other issues like upstream things. At a third of the regional budget, we are spending too much on policing, which is reactive. We need to recognize that we can't police our way out of every problem. Our regional budget should reflect that. Thank you for your time. And I would just say that your hardline on delegation timing speaks volumes about what you think of these feedback sessions. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any questions for the delegation? Seeing none, thank you for your time today. I think that, Megan, I think that concludes the registered delegation. So I wanted to point out to the board that we did receive 2 written submissions as well, which I believe have been posted in the board portal for members of the board to review at their convenience. I do appreciate people taking time out of their schedule to participate today. In closing, I believe the chief and the board will reflect on the comments and will respond in the budget process. Unless there's any other business from the board, I don't see any hands going up. Can I I think we move to adjourn. If I can get a motion to adjourn. Moved by Jim and seconded by Doug. All those in favor?